you guys, this is me coming at you with, well, excuse me. What is going on with you guys? This is me, Smazalataylor, coming at you with the crew too. And I would like to, share some information. Area 51. I, watched the video for a very long time. Looking at this video, and you be the judge, but I watched this when I was probably 11 years old, and this call was done in 1997. It was on a station, and there was a guy called Arthel. If you've not looked at this video, I highly suggest you do. And you be the judge. Anyway, I'm gonna share it with you guys, so here we go. A former employee ended up calling off on a radio station. On April. As always, you decide.
The East of the Rockies, you're on the air.
Hi, Art. This is Brian.
Hi, Brian.
Hello. You didn't disconnect me before, did you?
Were you on earlier tonight?
No, not, towards the end of the last hour, you said, East of the Rockies, you're on the air, and your voice was immediately replaced by the operator saying your party has not connected.
Well, see, as you can now tell, I don't screen calls. So
Right.
What happened, obviously, was that I answered the phone just at the very instant that you had been ringing as long as they were going to let you ring.
Yeah.
And so that occurs, obviously, sometimes I go to a line and it's dead, nobody's there, and that's what's happened. You know, we're on the cusp there. Anyway, I'm glad I made it back through.
Yeah, you got all my paranoia buttons running. I always get very nervous when I call you. I'm Brian. I hung up on you last week.
I see.
And I just figured, damn the torpedoes, I'll just do this and let the chips fall where they will.
All right.
Everybody, I am the Area 51 caller. That's my statement, and let you or whatever tear it apart.
You claim you're the Area 51?
I am the man.
How do you account for the fact, Area 51 caller,
Okay.
that part of the way through your spiel, the satellite went down?
I have no idea, and it scared the heebie-jeebies out of me that night. I've called a number of times on your specialty line nights doing different, kind of wacky characters, and that's all that one was supposed to be. And if the call had been completed, it would have been ancient history by now.
Has it occurred to you, as Barbara Marks Hubbard suggested tonight, that perhaps...
Okay, hold on a minute. Right, so this is what happened first. And look back into that, that's interesting. You be the judge.
Line, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello, Art.
Yes.
Hi. I don't have a whole lot of time.
Well, look, let's begin by finding out whether you're using this line properly or not.
Area 51.
Yeah, that's right. Were you an employee?
I former employee. I on a medical discharge about a week ago, and I've kind of been running across the country. Oh man, I don't know where to start. They're gonna they'll triangulate on this position really soon.
You can't spend a lot of time on the phone, Gus, so give us something quick.
Okay, okay, what we're thinking of as aliens are they're extra-dimensional beings that an earlier precursor of the space program made contact with. They are not what they claim to be. They have infiltrated a lot of aspects of the military establishment, particularly the Area 51. The disasters that are coming, the military, I'm sorry, the government knows about them, and there's a lot of safe areas in this world that they could begin moving the population to now, Art.
But they're not doing anything.
They are not. They want the major population centers wiped out so that the few that are left will be more easily controllable.
Discharge.
I started getting...
So if everybody wants to know, this is the backup system that Bell is running back up to get the radio station back on. And it's kind of a freaking catchy song. I'm digging it.
In some way, something knocked us off the air, and we're on a backup system now.
It's a government or...
I don't know.
It has to be something now.
Well, did you hear... Now, you tell me because you were listening.
That was awful strange.
There was a really weird guy on the air when it went off?
Yeah. Real weird out.
Like, going...
Alright, I will pause it there for a sec. So they ended up like speaking, so what people would say was the truth about Area 51. These people who know about them, they're extra dimensional beings, and they infiltrated the Area 51 aspects, and it's crazy. So I just ended up, this is but I just ended up picking on another video. So apparently this caller is called back Art. So let's listen, because maybe he ended up getting hushed by the government to... Okay, I guess I'm not gonna be showing that because my fire down. Okay, that's weird. Try a different charger. Wow. Well, my fire tablet is just gone off. I don't think that is anything to judge though. Like, I don't think that just happened on purpose. I mean, if it did, and I ended up going to click on the video, and all of a sudden it's disappeared, then, you know, this guy's words could be true. So I ended up watching this video when I was 11 years old, And to listen to it now, like, I'm speechless. But that's my view, and obviously your guys' thoughts in the matter do matter, so, you be the judge. Alright, let's see if I can get back there. So, the second video I just clicked on there was the guy who claimed to be a former employee working at Area 51 ended up calling our back. Now keep in mind, folks, that this guy could have been making this call is because he's been forced to, and says probably it was a hoax, just to keep people off the tippy toes. I'm wondering what's really going on in this world we live in. So, let's play that. So this is the Area 51 caller ended up calling Art Bell back. Let's have a listen. Okay, so it says excuse me a minute. It says many believe this is not the same person that called in 1997. Others believe it is the same person, but he was getting forced to make it look fake. So, what do you think, guys? You decide.
The east of the Rockies, you're on the air.
Hi, Art.
As you can now tell, I don't screen calls. So what happened, obviously, was that I answered the phone just at the very instant that you had been ringing as long as they were going to let you ring. So that's what's happened. You know, we just were on the cusp there. Anyway, I'm glad I made it back through.
Yeah, you got all my paranoia buttons running. I always get very nervous when I call you. I'm Brian. I hung up on you last week.
Oh, I see.
And I just figured, damn the torpedoes, I'll just do this and let the chips fall where they will.
All right.
Everybody, I am the Area 51 caller. That's my statement, and let you or whatever tear it apart.
You claim you're the Area 51?
I am the man.
How do you account for the fact, Area 51 caller,
Okay.
that part of the way through your spiel, the satellite went down?
I have no idea, and it scared the heebie-jeebies out of me that night.
took down my cellar.
That scares the heebie-jeebies out of me because it means that what I was saying was
creating a reality.
yeah, if the case, I humbly apologize to you because I love your show, and the last thing I would ever want to do is
Not
get
be
you
off the
air. So what can I do to prove my claim here?
Well, I guess you could give us a little of what you gave us then so that we could hear it and know it to be you.
Are you sure you want me to do that, Art?
I'm positive.
Don't, Art, please. I don't want you to ask me to do this. If I start doing that guy,
What the fuck?
They're extra-dimensional beings that an earlier precursor of the space program made contact with. They are not what they claim to be. They have infiltrated a lot of aspects of military. They're coming. The military. I'm sorry. The government knows about them, and there's a lot of safe areas in this world that they could begin moving the population to now, Art.
But they're not doing anything.
They are not. They want the major population centers wiped out so that the few that are left will be more easily controllable.
Yes, sir. I guess you could give us a little of what you gave us then so that we could hear it and know it to be you.
Are you sure you want me to do that, Art?
I'm positive.
Don't, Art, please. I don't want you to ask me to do this. If I start doing that guy,
You're right about that. Now, let's just take that little sample that you just gave us so that we don't alter some sort of hard little reality here at the end of the program, and we'll let the callers be the judge.
Okay.
All right?
I thank you for this opportunity. This has just been driving me bananas for months. I didn't know what you wanted me to do. It's very difficult for me to prove to you. But I just thank you for your patience in dealing with me up to this time.
All right. All right. Thank you. Fritz in Phoenix is an alright call and said, oh, yes, that's him. Somebody else said, oh, no. Now he has done his little Area 51 caller IMO, or the real thing, depending on what you think. And so we'll leave it up to all of you. That is what you think.
Wait. So the call itself is called Opel Area 51 phone call. So if that is the person who was ended up calling back, so that was a bit of how he was then calling to let people know that he was the caller. But obviously it was a video as well. It was two videos in one of him, the original person who it was, to him then calling up saying it was just a joke. He was pretending to be somebody. Now, you be the judge of that. I ended up watching that when I was 11 years old, and I'm pretty sure if anybody else feels it within maybe this guy decided to call back is because he got forced to. And if he didn't do what they ended up telling him to do, they would have probably done something pretty bad. Now, going back to more interesting facts about Area 51, there was a guy called Lazar, Bob Lazar, and he ended up doing a program, and he was talking about this element, and an element called element 15. Or element 51, I think it's element 15. So this source of power is the source that ends up creating this, like, spaceship to go from one place to another. And basically Bob Lazar ended up trying to prove of his truths of what he knew and what they were trying to make out he wasn't, to just make him look like a fool between public for what he really knew. So he ended up doing a video with some random guy on the phone talking about this element 15 or 15. Don't quote me on it. I think it's element 15. And so he ends up talking about on the phone, like, to the guy, but he had this phone next to him to prove that the people in this world listen to our conversations regardless. So anyway, he took about half an hour just explaining that he got an element from Area 51, element 15, and he was wanting to use it for, like, some science. So the phone call ended up, he ended up putting the phone down or something, and out of a couple of minutes, the FBI and trucks and everything else secured the whole area and, like, were deadly serious. So if somebody ends up talking about this element 15 with Bob Lazar, he must have truth to it if he's willing to show the fact that, you know, what we're talking about right here, or what he was talking about, was full-on proof that he worked at the base, and he ended up getting FBI or all the other people, the federal government involved, to come and find him to collect this so-called power that he ended up taking away from Area 51. It all makes sense. I find it peculiar, honestly. I mean, I also had just a vision earlier on thinking, what happens if the reason why we're breathing is because we're attached to a snorkel through our astral projection body, and we only breathe is because that's a way of force of living. There is no such thing as air. You can't see it, but you believe it. And that just takes you back to the Matrix. You know how he ends up waking up, or he looks at the mirror, and then he ends up, like, feeling this coldness through his body, and then there's, like, this silver cord at the back of his head. Now, for anybody who wants to find interest in more stuff about that, is the silver cord at the back of your head is supposed to be the parts of your body that's connected to your soul. Now, as in the Matrix, the very first one I'm talking about, he ends up waking up and says this is the real world, and realizes that he was connected to, like, a sort of, like, a cabinet with loads of things plugged into his body. And then the machine ends up drilling the thing out of the back of his head, and didn't realize that he was actually just a battery power. And there's just loads of other people in this world. So crazy. And there you have it. So that's the Area 51 caller. I mean, he definitely sounded like the guy. But why would just by calling back, it gave people more of a worry of thinking, well, now people are really thinking, like, did he really call to announce that he was fake? Or did he call to announce that he was fake because he got told to? Well, there you have it. Do I believe in extra-dimensional beings? Absolutely. There is a very strong power between human and spiritual. It makes you really think, you know, what's next out of this life? I think there's a lot of things in this world as well. There's been lies, deceit, and making people believe stuff that's not even true. I was looking at a documentary earlier on. Well, not necessarily a documentary, but something like a video on Instagram, and it was a guy just talking about what NASA did eventually used to do. NASA wasn't a space program at all. NASA used to be looking at oceans. And one thing on the mission of the ocean ended up making them change their minds. So only like I think 5% of the ocean has been discovered or whatever. And what made them think, let's stop looking at oceans and take ourselves up into space. And then there's more to it. It's like it goes without saying, people who end up saying are flat earthers could be onto something. I'm not like ripping it into people's thoughts of like, yeah, it's true. But nobody actually knows what the world looks like. And if you want to travel to somewhere, you don't go around. It's just straight on. If you want to get to somewhere, you're looking in north, west, east, and south. And the reason why I'm saying this is because if you end up thinking of a Simpsons movie, for example, there's a dome. And if anybody has watched the Simpsons movie, you'll realize that they ended up infecting people with the spider pig. And then they ended up trying to blow up Springfield by putting a dome over them. And then there's loads of people who are like, well, you know, what happens if a rainbow is their, like, dome thing? Where it shows that it's a dome. I don't know. I mean, if you don't believe me, then go for it. Fucking attach a phone to a rocket and fly it out of space to see if it's something. But it really makes me think, like, there's a lot in this world that we should know about, but we don't. It's only tied down to certain things. History, maths, English, science. Oh yeah, sorry, and money. And those are the main really things in life that are just constantly like there. I really thought about thinking, you know, people in school, why are you at school? And there was only one solution. You're at school is because your parents cannot look after you while they're working, so they take you to a place of where you get daycare. Call school whatever, but what I call school is a place that you will end up getting infiltrated by bullies because they've got a hard time at home or whatever, so they tear your world up. And cause I don't think grades, diplomas get you places. It's the people you know, the contacts you have. And if you don't have no contacts with anybody, you're really just alone in the world. And you gotta really just prove yourself. I also feel like as well, you know, that we have got a lot of knowledge between our brains and everything else, realizing what's right and wrong. But if these thoughts randomly come into your head and you go to spit it out and people are like, oh, y'all don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, I mean, you know, you would think I don't know what I'm talking about, but why would that thought randomly just bounce into my head and think, well, maybe there is a way of this, or maybe there's a way of that? You will never know. There is always the power between your mind giving you this information to let out. A lot of people are silenced. I mean, look at the world as it is. You end up trying to meet people, or you live in your own world, and you end up exiting your world to enter another dimension of where people are at. You're petrified to talk to anybody. Why? Because you don't know what they're like. And we've been silenced, so nobody really talks to each other unless you've got a drink down you. You have to be forced to, like, drink and stuff. And apparently what drink and alcohol is supposed to be is devil's liquor, but I don't want to throw religion down in people's throats either, but that's something. And it just shows that people can actually communicate with one another as when one is hammered or drunk, because you don't know what you're doing. Or you do know what you're doing. I don't know. I feel like we've got a lot of power, and people are trying to figure that shit out. You know, it bothers me as well when people are like, oh yeah, well you're just a conspiracy theorist. Yeah, but little did you know that that conspiracy theorist is bloody thinking about how the world is going on, and actually not just sitting and listening to words from the government, but like, oh well, the government says this, so I guess it must be true. There's all aspects to believe in things. You're entitled to it. I didn't get my COVID jab. I didn't plan to. I didn't feel positive about it. I felt negative, so I chose not to. And that was my belief. I just ended up looking at something last night, and it said that some person in Asia ended up exposing, saying that the COVID vaccine was created in a government lab. And that just entitles it down to one thing. Why would I need an injection to pour into my arm that's been already created by the government? As far as it's been happening, I haven't been affected. No, I've been chilling. But because the government tells you to, something off about it, you know? Oh yeah, so back to it though. When people are like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Conspiracy theorists are the people that end up looking out for the people who are not woke. Yeah, they've got rights to be conspiracy theorists just because they see something that you don't. I mean, yes, it doesn't necessarily mean they need to throw it down your throats and say, like, this is how it is. But wouldn't that not be any different to the fact that what you ended up learning in school and realizing that it was all lies in the first place? To instead just have the decency to sit there and listen to another person's view doesn't mean yours is always right. I myself am Aquarius. I'm an element of balance, water, and, you know, I like to look out for people. That shows how much of a decent soul I've actually got. I mean, everybody can be horrible, but it's just the way people treat you. You know, treat people as how you want to be treated. As strong words. You could be the loveliest person ever until somebody ends up dropping a god or ends up doing something that they don't realize that actually hurt you. Whew. That's probably the wrong move to make. As I just realized that, you know, by being in a relationship online does not necessarily go with how you wish it to. I myself like my own control. I don't like anybody to come in and go, hey, I don't like how you're controlling things around here, you know, I'm gonna interrupt your life from what you're doing because it's necessary. You know? If I'm dating somebody, I expect them to focus on what they're doing and focus on their own balance instead of on mine, because my balance is mine. And you only believe in so much that you can do for one another. If somebody can't respect you for who you are, then it doesn't mean they love you, regardless of whatever they plan to buy you or whatever. It just means they're generous to get you something. It doesn't mean they're That's fine. I just wanted to do this stream to give you enlightenment of actually that there is people and radio stations and talking about Area 51, which was the main topic of this whole stream, and so bounce between many different things. But that the government knows I'm gonna share it. There you have it. The question is between everybody and myself is, what are you doing with your own life? You know? What's gonna happen after the end of this life? By God, I would love to know. People think there is just a reincarnation. I mean, man, if that was the case, then it sort of comes down to the fact of, if that was the case, why is it that I will not remember this life? Because apparently I'm an old soul, which means I've lived before. I don't remember my last life. So I guess if you're planning to do something in this life, make sure that you put yourself into it. Because if you don't, I mean, think about it. You ain't gonna remember it in the next life, so what you've got to hold now is in this life. And that's the power you need to realize. There's people who have got depression and think that life is not worth living. Yeah, I'll be real with you. Some days it's not. But you just gotta hold yourself to it and be like, well, hey, look, today has not been my good day. Tomorrow could be better. And just because you're having a shit day doesn't mean that it's gonna be shit the next day and the next day after that. You can only do so much. I mean, it's funny as well because whatever I'm thinking in my head, I'll probably think about it on my own. But I could never share it with you guys. Why? Is because it's just the world how it is. You could have the deepest information ever. You could never say it. Because something would prevent you from doing it. Or how you feel something when you want to say it. It's like asking a girl out, you know? You end up, regardless, asking a girl, guy out, wherever suits your mood. It's like asking anybody out or want to do something. You know, it's in your mind, you want to say it, but you don't. And I don't know if that's because of the thoughts are in your head, is like you're scared of rejection sort of thing. Or just because you're silenced. Imagine if the world was a whole game at the whole time and we were just the NPCs in the middle of it. Life for you. By God, it would be interesting. I don't know where I'm driving to, by the way. I've come a long way. Oh, there you have it anyway. More information on the submit. It will end in a couple of days, so if you need to get onto your game and do the submit, you might get lucky to get a platinum, and Obviously, you gotta keep yourself in the platinum, because if you don't, you won't get the vehicle that is showing. And it ends in 4 days, I think. 4 days, let's double check. Okay, 4 days left. Interesting, because that says 4 days left. Now if I ended up going to the car, it says 3 days left. Well, anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the stream. I wish I could have enlightened you a bit more. But you be the judge. Anyway, peace.